Hey guys, it's Pedro back with another interview covering VCT Americas Stage 2. And for this occasion, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a different approach. Instead of talking to the players, I'm going to be talking to the managers. For this occasion, I'll be talking to Marty, the manager for 100 Thieves, but I believe also he also does other things besides that. Marty, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this real quick. Just sort of start off with the obvious, what do you do? You're in 100 Thieves, you're the manager, but what else do you do?
Hey guys, so my title is technically Senior Operations Manager of Facilities and Esports. So I kind of do a plethora of things around the office. Most notably, I've been a team manager for about 4.5 years or so at 100 Thieves. So that's been CSGO, LCS, VCT. So I take care of most of the logistics, from day-to-day logistics to anytime we need to travel, whether we go to champs, whether we go international. It's kind of my job to make sure that everybody gets there, right? Booking hotels, booking flights, visas, any of that type of stuff. I'm basically the liaison from the company, and more specifically the team, to whatever company we're working with, whether that's Riot, Activision, whoever, right? And then facility side, basically just a facilities manager. So I take care of the day-to-day operations at the facility. That could be a range of things, whether this breaks, that breaks. It's my job to fix it. We're hosting individuals or VIPs or anything like that. It's basically my job to make sure everything's working correctly and the facility is standing up.
Quite a lot of things, I will say, for sure. I mean, got to give you the obvious follow-up, in trying to manage so many things at one time, at different times, also managing different positions. What do you think has been the most difficult part in just trying to make everything happen within your shoes?
Yeah, I think, when you have two different titles, it's hard to balance your time efficiently. I will say work-life balance is not in my vocabulary for the most part. We work just on the team side about 6 days a week, so I pretty much emulate their schedule as best as I can. Thankfully, esports is relatively flexible to a degree, so 100 Thieves, shout out 100 Thieves. They do a fantastic job. Our HR, our management does a really good job if you need time off or anything like that. So the hardest part is probably just juggling everything that's happening. Obviously, you're dealing with, at a certain point I was dealing with LCS and VALORANT, right? And you have 5 players on each team, and you have 2 staff members, and you have a general manager. So obviously meeting the needs of, 12, 15 people, that can get a little cumbersome at times. But for the most part, I love what I do. 100 Thieves is a fantastic org. I've had the pleasure of being here for 4.5 years, and I love every minute of it.
As you said, you've been managing different versions of the org in different games. What do you think has been the biggest difference between, this VALORANT squad from all the other teams that you've been supporting in the past and even in the future and in the present?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I first started with, our First Strike squad with Hiko and Nitro and Steel and all of them, and they were a fantastic squad. Obviously, winning First Strike was fantastic. We might be the only org that, says, hey, what about First Strike? But it was a great time. Obviously very young in the VALORANT scene, but honestly, all the renditions, I wasn't too involved last year, as I was mostly with LCS, with Double Lift and Bjergensen. And honestly, this year has been fantastic with Boostio coming in. I think Boostio's really been able to get the most out of our guys, right? He's so outgoing and very vocal. I think it's allowed everybody else to come out of their shells and not be so worried about maybe what other people think, right? Because you have Boostio here who's screaming and standing up and doing all the shenanigans that people don't necessarily feel so uncomfortable or embarrassed or anything like that. So it's allowed people to really come out of their shells. And it's been really great to see, Cryo, Peter. I've been with Peter for, Lord, obviously since First Strike, and we've known each other for a long time. And, I can tell, just the maturity of Peter in himself is impressive, right? You expect that as somebody's just growing older and learning in life. But seeing him being able to smile and continue to, have fun on stage, and same thing with Cryo. We've seen a lot of times where Cryo's been standing up or like smiling and laughing on stage, which has been great. So I think big kudos to Boostio in coming in here and being able to bring the most out of everybody, and everybody has fun. Obviously, we've seen the whole Twitter stuff the last couple of days and whatnot, but this team, they have so much fun together. They go hang out after practice almost every day. They go to dinner all the time together, right? So like these guys, they're a great team. They're great teammates, and they really do have fun together.
It's fair to say, looking at this iteration of the 100 Thieves squad, it is the second great 100 Thieves squad, given the fact that, as you said, the first squad was able to win first strike and then eventually was able to do well, I believe placing 4th in Masters Berlin. And, after that, it was quite a long period for it to reach back to that old greatness, I would say. And with this squad, the 2024 squad, we're seeing the flashes of that happening in real time. I mean, what do you think is the one thing that you feel best resembles and also best differentiates both of those aforementioned versions of the squad?
Yeah, that's kind of a tough question because obviously, like, just the age difference between the First Strike squad and this strike or this team currently. I think, like, the biggest thing for the First Strike team was just the fact that, like, everybody had so much experience, right? Obviously, it was, again, like I said before, it was very early on in the Valorant scene. And there wasn't, at least in my opinion, there wasn't a ton of great teams. We were able to kind of skyrocket in ahead of a lot of teams just based off the experience that we had with that the guys carried, and was able to win First Strike. Obviously, TSM was like goated for quite a while there in the beginning. We were able to take them down. But I think what resembles or like what parallels is probably, that's a very good question. I would say probably like I think the camaraderie is just much better on this squad. It doesn't necessarily parallel, but we had a lot of good camaraderie in the beginning of our First Strike team, and I think here that's really been able to propel us into success. I think with Tony coming in as well, Zeke's coming in, he's done a fantastic job at making sure that we're prepared. Tony's in 2 hours before practice every day. Tony's in 2 hours before games every day, scouting, going over lineups, and having stuff readily available for our guys to be able to go over. And I think that has really been able to propel us to success. Shout out Frost, who was our coach for our First Strike rendition of our team. And I just honestly think that we've had a lot of great coaching. Obviously, Mike's been in there as well. We had Jovi in there as well. We've had, obviously, things just go up and down. So unfortunate timings in some cases. So, but I think the two coaches at that time, I think that's a pretty good parallel between the two teams, as our coaching has just been fantastic. So thankfully our team is very good at being able to communicate with each other and talk about their feelings if anything's going wrong or things are great, right? We're more than capable of being able to have those conversations, and it just makes things so much easier to not bottle anything up. And I think that probably is a lot of kudos to our coaches. Yeah.
And I want to just take the focus back onto you. Walk me through a usual day within yourself. What's the schedule like for you on a typical weekday for you as the 100 Thieves manager, and then / whatever else you should do?
Sure. Yeah. So, now with me having kind of more of a hybrid role with the management of the facilities, I basically come in every morning, probably about 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and usually I try to stay as late as the players stay because I'm there with them. I'm there to support them. I'm there to get them whatever they need. So usually I'll come in at about 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and then from there it's basically I do my facilities work for the first 2-3 hours, depending on when we scrim. Usually we won't come in till 11 if we have the earlier game, or 12 o'clock if we have the later game. And so the 12 o'clock ones are a little tougher because we stay till about 7 o'clock at night. So usually by like 5, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get a little tired, you know? But during the day, basically it's just making sure that the guys are coming in readily available to practice, making sure that we have our chef food ready to go, making sure that the guys have everything that they need. And then at that point, it's just basically supporting them. The typical day is pretty easy for the most part, if you will, because we have everything already set up, ready to go, right? I give them a schedule every morning to make sure that they know what we need to do the next day, whether that's just a regular scrim schedule, whether that's content or anything of that nature. And then obviously throughout the entirety of the day, I'm taking care of any facility stuff that there might be, whether that's communicating with our building manager and making sure that HVAC issues are solved or whatever that may be. Obviously, we're 100 Thieves, so we have quite a bit of parties and stuff of that nature. So on that front, I make sure that all that's taken care of. I can't even go into like the length of things that I do, but just this week we've installed HVAC, which for those of you who don't know, that is just air conditioning, if you will. So we've had that installed. We've had electrical lines ran, painting getting done, anything of that nature. We got some new dope cars that people will hopefully see here in the next month or so. And so receiving those on that end, we had a VIP kind of like a not a marketing. It was more like how can I say it? Kind of like a gathering, a community, or I can't even think of it. Networking event. That's what I'm looking for. We had a networking event today, so basically all this morning I was going around making sure all of our equipment in the office was working, our bars, our taps, our sinks and stuff like that, to make sure that everything's ready to go to host people, because we try to really create a space that everybody will be able to enjoy over there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then obviously if we go international, obviously hopefully we go to Korea for a Masters. And at that point, obviously, I'm communicating with Riot, and we're getting all of our visas, and we're getting all the airlines tickets done. We're getting all the hotels done. So just a plethora of things. My day changes all the time, which is what I love. I don't like to do the same thing every day. But yeah, you just got to be flexible and be on your toes. So.
Well, my God. That's all I have to say about that. Got one more question. Got the heads up to wrap up.
Sure.
I think that one of the biggest things that kind of stood out to you, on top of just your line of work and how experienced you are, is your drip. You've always made it a point to just present yourself as a very well-regarded young man. Drip. You always having the white dress, shirt, the black tie, making a point about that. What is drip to you?
Drip to me is whatever you feel good in. For me specifically, obviously I started with LCS when they had the rule that you needed to wear basically a suit and tie on stage. And I was kind of always in the back with like a jersey on, and kind of felt like I was a little different, right? And then coming over to VALORANT with obviously more of kind of a casual streetwear, I like to change it up a bit. And for me personally, I think I like to try to have this persona that like esports is a real thing, right? Esports is a legitimate job. Esports is a legitimate sport, right? And by me coming and dressing the way I do, I feel it sets a good example for others to be able to feel like and know that like there is a pathway to esports. There is a sustainable career in esports. And obviously it's a little bit hyped up just because it's just the way I dress, but that's the way I like to do it. Look good, feel good, play good. Obviously I don't play good, but because I don't play. And I also don't play good when I do play. But I think just coming and showing that you're ready for business helps the guys understand that like, hey, it's time to go to work. And, for me, looking good, that also sets a precedence for other people to take you seriously. And again, like I said before, esports is to be taken serious.
No, for sure. Really do appreciate you giving me all these questions. Very thorough, very in-depth answers, not questions, to my questions. Marty, thank you so much, and best of luck going forward, man.